of whom 4 have died. On the other hand, 430 under 5 years have been confirmed positive, with 2 dying within this age group. So you can see from these figures that, in fact, the proportion that die is very low, in line with what has been observed in other places. And since we're talking about children today, I want to discuss the issues surrounding welfare and formation of infants and children, as well as their growth and development from the time they are born. Globally, child survival remains an urgent concern. The first 28 days of life is the most vulnerable period of a child's survival. Children face the highest risk of dying in their first month of life. The global neonatal death rate is 18 deaths per 1,000 live births. And about a third of all neonatal deaths tend to occur on the day of birth and close to 3/4 in the first week of life. These findings suggest that focusing on the critical periods of birth and that immediately following birth is essential to save more newborn lives. In our country, under 5 mortality decreased by 50% since 1990. Neonatal mortality, on the other hand, has remained stagnant and as of 2014 stood at 22 per 1,000 live births. A more recent estimate by the UN Interagency Group for Child Mortality indicates that our neonatal mortality rate in Kenya rose to 29 per 1,000 live births in 2018. Not a very good indicator, an indicator that we need to work hard on in bringing down the number of neonatal deaths. Newborn deaths now account for 42% of all under 5 deaths and 56% of all infants. The main causes of neonatal mortality include intrapartum complications, birth asphyxia, which accounts for 31.6% of the deaths, prematurity, which accounts for 26%, and infections, which accounts for 15 and 15.8%. Other causes take up the 28%. There are various interventions that have been put in place to deal with these causes. First, with regard to intrapartum complications or birth asphyxia, efforts have been made to ensure availability of the basic resuscitation equipment in all facilities offering delivery services, items such as bag and mask, thermal heaters, enough warm towels, and other materials. We're also working together on ensuring proper care, comfort, and monitoring of mothers in labor to reduce incidences of intrapartum complications. The Ministry is also advocating for the establishment of newborn units in all Level 4 and Level 3 facilities to decongest county referral hospitals and Level 5 hospitals. To improve survival rates of premature children, we are scaling up the kangaroo mother care intervention in all counties, with at least a minimum of 3 facilities in each county able to offer this service. Currently, kangaroo mother care is practiced in 31 counties. Efforts are also being made to ensure proper follow-up of discharged preterm babies until they attain 2.5 kilograms. The Ministry of Health has developed newborn care guidelines for hospitals and lower-level facilities to offer guidance to new mothers. At the same time, We are ensuring availability of training materials on essential newborn care for pre-service and in-service, as well as inpatient newborn care register for capturing newborn data within the unit. We have also introduced the use of 7.1% chlorhexidine digluconate for umbilical cord care. At the county level, we have placed a child health focal person to advocate for the scale-up of newborn care interventions. We are also providing technical support to the counties through trainings, mentorship, and support supervision on newborn care interventions. However, all these efforts have not gone without their challenges. First, there have been slow scale-up of key interventions such as the kangaroo mother care, as well as utilization of the 7.1% chlorhexidine digluconate. Secondly, there has been inadequate support supervision, mentorship, and capacity building to the counties due to limited resources, among others. Early childhood development covers children aged 0 to 8 years old. Nurturing care for early childhood development focuses on the period from pregnancy to age 3, because it is scientifically proven that this is a very sensitive period for brain development. Yet in many settings, this period is not usually addressed in programming for early childhood development. In these earliest years, the health sector is uniquely positioned to provide support for nurturing care. From age 3, children move into more formal preschool settings where the education sector plays a pivotal role. Nurturing care for early childhood development recognizes that optimal development results from interventions in many stages of life and focuses on the period from pregnancy to age 3 in order to draw attention to the health sector's extensive reach and to make use of it. Nurturing care is the set of conditions that provide for children's health, nutrition, security and safety, responsive caregiving, and opportunities for early learning. Nurturing children means keeping them safe, healthy, and well-nourished, paying attention and responding to their needs and interests, encouraging them to explore their environment and interact with caregivers and others. Turning to our COVID-19 situation in the country, today 193 people have tested positive, following the testing of 3,381 samples over the last 24 hours. This now brings the number of cumulative positives in the country to 32,557, and our cumulative tests to 425,364. The 193 cases being reported today are all Kenyans except for 3 who are foreigners. 137 are males, 56 are females. The youngest is a 2-month-old infant. The oldest is 87 years. The distribution of cases by counties is as follows: Nairobi 78, Embu 24, Garissa 21, Kiambu 18, Nyeri 13, Mombasa 10, Samburu 6, Murang'a 5, Lamu 4, Kajiado 3, Trans Nzoia 2, Kilifi 2, Machakos 1, Isiolo 1, Tharaka Nithi 1, Meru 1, Nyandarua 1, Uasin Gishu 1, and Nakuru 1. Let's look at the distribution, sub-county distribution of the 78 cases in Nairobi. These are in Kamkunji 9, Embakasi East, Langata, Makadara, and Westlands, 7 cases each. Dagoretti North and Embakasi South, 6 cases each. Embakasi West, Kasarani, and Kibra, 4 cases each. Embakasi North, Roysambu, Ruaraka, and Starehe, 3 cases each. Dagoretti South and Embakasi Central, 2 cases each. And Madare, 1 case. The 24 cases in Embu are all from Manyata, while the 21 cases in Garissa are all from the Garissa town. The rest of the breakdown of distribution according to sub-counties is given in the document that you will receive. On a positive note, 225 patients have recovered from the disease. Of these, 188 have been discharged from the home-based care program, while 37 have been discharged from various health facilities that they have been receiving care. The total number of recoveries now stands at 18,895. And I want to thank our healthcare workers for this great achievement. On a sad note, we have lost 6 patients to the disease, bringing our fatalities to 554. And our sincere condolences to the families and friends of all those who have lost their loved ones. I thank you. Asanteni.
Nancy Okware kutoka KBC. Wahudumu wa afya wamekuwa na changamoto, hususan migomo ambayo imekuwa ikishuhudiwa hapa katika kaunti ya Nairobi, na vilevile wengine wametoa ile ilani ya kugoma baada ya pengine siku 21. Je, kama wizara ni kipi ambacho mnafanya ili kushughulikia maslahi yao? Manake imekuwa mkitoa ahadi lakini bado wanasema ya kwamba ahadi zenyu hazijatimizwa. Hivyo basi kama wizara ni kipi ambacho mnapanga kufanya? Asante.
Nayoma Sampao from NTV. My question is, how far is investigations into the COVID-19 millionaires issue? And then my other question is concerning the latest statistics reveal that we've been recording fewer cases. What is the explanation to that? And could the lack of reagents be a contributing factor?
For what? Decreasing numbers?
For the reduced numbers.
Elfas Lagat from Citizen TV. Dr. Rashid, I have a question regarding return to sports. The last quarter of between September and October, there is the proposal to have sports return and active participation in sports. How, as a ministry, have you laid out a return to sports? And again, there is the explanation that there needs to be testing, and also is going to actually bear the cost of testing. Is it the sportsmen? Is it the government? Please elaborate on that. And then another question to Dr. Amoth is regarding the projected number in September. The ministry has always said that September is the month that we will see a peak in Kenya. Perhaps if you can tell us if there is a new model that you're using to base on those numbers, and if you can also tell us those numbers. And also a further addition to what Sampao has asked, is it a question of less reagents? Have you received more reagents? Because we're seeing increasingly reduced numbers, now 193. You can also please elaborate on that. Thank you.
Sada Hassan from KTN. My question is on, you keep on saying in the last 24 hours you've tested these samples and you've seen this number of results. So we know for a fact that these samples are usually brought out together and then maybe a day or two, and then now the results are announced. So is there So these examples, these samples, when were they actually tested, and when were they collected? And then now the second question is, what measures have you put in place to ensure that we've seen a reduction in the backlog? Because across the country, we know that there's a backlog of these samples that have been collected, and we know in some counties that it takes up to 2 weeks to actually get the results. So, and by the time the results are coming in, they're not useful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There was a question regarding the 21-day strike notice that certain healthcare workers have given. As a ministry, our aim, especially during this COVID pandemic, is to ensure that our response to the COVID pandemic does not falter. And it will falter if the most prized element of this response, who are our healthcare workers in the front line, decide to down their tools. So ours is to appeal to our healthcare workers to be able to continue to render these important services at this critical time, but at the same time enter into dialogue on the grievances that they may have. And I can assure you that as a ministry, we are working together also with the counties and the aggrieved parties in trying to address these grievances. And there are discussions ongoing. The ministry will be putting it in its effort in trying to diffuse this situation and to avert this strike, because we cannot afford to have a strike at this point in time. And again, to our healthcare workers, it's not the right time for us to be able to engage in this type of unrest when we have serious concerns about saving people's lives in this pandemic. I will not comment on the issue of the COVID-19 billionaires, as you called it, because that matter is, I'm sure, receiving the attention of the right agencies and institutions that will be looking into it. So that is not an area that I would want to comment on. The reduced number of tests, and I think we have said before that first, the tests that we are reporting today are samples that were collected over the weekend, and generally we do see that following a weekend the number of tests are low. But having said that, we have in the last week been testing lower than what we had the previous week. And the reason is that it depends upon the supply chain and the reagents that we have. We do get these reagents. We have organized to get it on a regular basis from our suppliers, and I think they have been able to maintain that over the last several weeks, that have seen our testing numbers really go up. But now and then we might have a challenge in this supply chain, and that is when you see us having lower numbers of testing. But we are expecting a consignment of tests anytime now, and as soon as that arrives, we shall still go back to our figures of before, or maybe even higher, as we continue with our testing. Alphas Langat, it is not only sports, I think, that wants to come back and be active. There are many areas within our social and economic life that we want to normalize and bring back to normal. Of course, in doing this, we must be informed by where we are in terms of our pandemic. And you have seen the progressive easing of measures as we have moved forward in some areas. And I'm sure that when the time is right and when we have the advice of experts as to what we can do in terms of the measures, those measures will be addressed at that time. And it's schools too. The discussion is around schools as well. Should schools reopen, and when do they reopen? How do we reopen? Is it going to be a phased process, and so on? As regards sports that will bring together a lot of people, gatherings in stadia, I think still remains a concern. If we were to talk about soccer or things where you have a lot of fans coming into the stadium, we need to have the proper measures also instituted in that place. If we have to resume these sports, then we must also put in place the right measures to ensure that there is social distancing and wearing of masks and all these other procedures. I have seen this happen in other countries doing that. In many other countries, sports have resumed, but they are being done on a virtual basis, people watching from the comfort of their rooms. So I think we will address that as we move forward. The last 24 hours, when we say the last 24 hours of testing, indeed what we mean by that is that samples have been collected, and usually they are collected. The program of collection of samples is that once they are collected, they are shipped to a lab. If they are collected during the daytime hours, they are then shipped to a lab in the evening, and then they are tested from there. Those are the 24 hours we talk about, because the following morning the results are ready to be presented. And by and large, that is how we have operated. However, on occasion, of course, there will be a backlog. And when there is a backlog, then preference is obviously has to be given to those samples that arrived earlier, for the reason that we need to test those samples. You can't keep samples for too long, otherwise they will not be of great value. So backlog challenges now and then do appear, but by and large we do try to clear the samples that we get within that 24-hour period and return the results. And remember that we are testing in very many laboratories, and quite a good number of them are here in Nairobi, but we have also built capacity now in many of our laboratories across the country, in Kisumu, in Kericho, in Mombasa, in Kilifi, and then those results can then be relayed electronically to the center here for reporting. So I think that sums up the questions, but I will ask DG to say one or two words, perhaps.
Thanks, Waziri. In addition to what CS has told us, is that today morning we had a meeting with the Council of Governors, the Kenya National Union of Nurses, the Kenya Clinical Officers Union, and the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union, in view of the strike notice that was issued. We have had very fruitful deliberations. Some of the issues date back to more than 5-6 years ago. And we have agreed that going forward, this is a time for us to come together as a country. And we'll be able to have a follow-up meeting next week on Tuesday to be able to see how we can be able to mitigate against this intended strike. So discussions are ongoing, and we are making good progress. And we believe we'll reach a compromise on the best way forward to safeguard the gains that we have made since we started fighting this pandemic in March. Lagat asked a question about the testing and the projections. Yes, as Waziri says, we have more than 34 labs now testing for SARS-CoV-2 spread throughout the country. But for the past 1 week or so, you have noticed a decreasing positivity rate, which as of today stands at 6%. So that is, you are making progress, but you have not hit the magical 5%, which we need to hit and sustain for 2 weeks before we can actually say that we are flattening the curve. So our projections are in line with what we told you early in March, April, that the pandemic will peak in late August, September, and empirical data that we are seeing is pointing to that figure, but it is too early to conclusively come to address this matter as at now. So the next 3-4 weeks will be critical to be able to tell us whether we hit the magical 5% and we sustain that positivity rate for 2 weeks, in which case we can conclusively say that we have flattened the curve, and therefore we can be able to lift the remaining measures. The question regarding sports, we have worked very closely with the Ministry of Sports in development of guidelines and protocols to ensure safe resumption of sporting activities without danger to the sportsmen and women and also to the public. And some of these protocols will, of course, ensure that there will be no spectators or audiences in these sports, but people can be able to watch virtually through TV broadcast or through the internet. Yesterday you watched the Champions League final in Lisbon, which was a virtual thing, and we all watched it all over the world. We can as well be able to do that in Kenya, in athletics, in football, and all other areas of sports where we'll continue to excel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kitako ili niweze kukufahamisha kwa barabara mpenzi mtazamaji.
Baada ya visa
na bila shaka mpenzi mtazamaji, popote ulipo, fursa nzuri kabisa kukujuza taarifa tendeti na sahihi kutoka sehemu mbalimbali. Mtazamaji, taarifa nyingi zimeweza kujiri, lakini haya ndo yaliyomo.
Baada ya visa vya juu vya corona kuripotiwa kwa muda wa miezi miwili,
Today, 193 people have tested positive, following the testing of 3,381 samples.
Leo visa 193 vipya vimeripotiwa. Watu 7 waaga dunia kwenye ajali ya barabarani eneo la Kaburengu kwenye barabara kuu ya Webuye Eldoret, huku 14 wakipata majeraha mabaya. Waziri wa elimu Profesa George Magoha asema korona ikipungua huenda taasisi za kiufundi zikafunguliwa kabla ya mwaka ujao.
Na sasa mpenzi mtazamaji, karibu niweze kukujuza taarifa tendeti na sahihi. Mtafsiri kwenye lugha ya ishara anafahamika kama Ann Wairimo, wa kwetu wananiita Joash Onsare. Taarifa ya kwanza hapa ni kwamba watu 7 wamefariki na wengine 14 kuachwa na majeraha mabaya baada ya kuhusika kwenye ajali iliyohusisha lori la kubeba mchanga na matatu katika eneo la Kaburengu katika kaunti ya Kakamega. Utingo na wa matatu na wafanyi biashara wadogo ni miongoni mwa waliofariki. Mwanahabari wetu Mike Kagwongo na taarifa hiyo.
Kulingana na walioshuhudia ajali hiyo, lori hili lililokuwa likisafirisha bidhaa za ujenzi lilipoteza mwelekeo na kugonga matatu pamoja na kina mama waliokuwa wakiuza nyanya na vitunguu kando kando mwa barabara eneo la Kaburengu katika barabara ya Eldoret Malaba.
Gari ikatoka huko juu imekatika brakes. Yes. Hiyo gari ikagonga kwanza Nissan huko hivyo. Ikagonga Nissan ikaingia kwanza huku ndani. Ikakuja ikaua watu, ikakuja ikafanya nini? Ikamalizia kwa Nissan nyingine hapa hivi.
Gari limetoka juu likiwa limebeba kokoto, likakosa brake, likagonga wamama ambao wanauza soko na gari mbili za Nissan. Na hawa mama wanapogongwa ni kwa sababu walikuwa wamekuja kutafuta kitoweo cha watoto. Na maajabu ni kwamba barabara hii imepita kwa shamba la wamama wa soko.
Hapa mahali wamama wanakufa. Pesa ilikuwa mali hapa ya kutengenezea wamama soko, lakini ameweka wamama kwa barabara, wamama wanakufa, hawajajua wamama mahali penye wanakaa. Sisi tumechoka wamama kufa kila siku hapa, atengenezea wamama soko na wamama wakae ndani.
Watu 6 walifariki papo hapo, huku mmoja akifariki wakati akipelekwa hospitalini.
Na ni bahati mbaya kwamba imeweza kuwaumiza wananchi 7 ambaye kwa bahati mbaya wamepoteza maisha na watu kadhaa ambao wameumizwa, karibu watu 14 ambao wamekimbizwa Webuye hospital wakiwa na majeraha.
Naibu kamanda wa polisi mjini Kakamega James Ngetich amewataka madereva kuwa waangalifu wakikaribia eneo la Kaburengu, kwani hii si mara ya kwanza kwa ajali kutokea eneo hili.
Lori ilipoteza mwelekeo ikiwa inateremka katika hiyo mteremko ya Chimoi, na ndiposa ikagonga wale watu walikuwa kando ya barabara. Wengi wao ni wamama ambaye ni wachuuzi, walikuwa wanauza bidhaa kando ya barabara. Hii biashara ya kando ya barabara saa zingine iko na madhara, na ingekuwa mzuri kama wangeweza kuuzia bidhaa zao kwenye soko ili kupunguza ajali katika barabara kuu, ambaye hii barabara ni barabara ambaye iko na magari mingi sana.
Chifu wa kata ya Chevaiwa Alex Koricho amewataka wafanya biashara kuwa waangalifu na kukoma kufanyia biashara karibu na barabara, huku akiitaka serikali ya kaunti ya Kakamega na ile ya kaunti ya Bungoma kushirikiana na kuwajengea wafanya biashara wa eneo hilo mahali mbadala pa kufanyia kazi yao ili kuepukana na maafa kama hayo.
National government na county government tushirikiane, because Kaburengu ilikuwa na sehemu yao ya kuuzia matunda na mboka, na hiyo sehemu ilichukuliwa na tena hakuchenga hii parapara. Naonelea ingelikuwa vizuri serikali kama nisa kutenga pesa tunue sehemu yenye mama atakuwa anahusia vitu yao na pota na manamba kusimama. Hiyo inasikuwa kuchambo mzuri.
Majeruhi wanaendelea kupata matibabu katika hospitali ya rufaa ya Webuye, huku miili ya walioaga ikipelekwa katika chumba cha wafu cha hospitali ya Webuye. Kutoka kaunti ya Bungoma nikiripotia TV 47, mimi ni Mike Kagwang.
Na sasa mtazamaji, tuangazie taarifa ambayo inashabiana vizuri na masuala ya corona. Ni kwamba katibu mratibu katika Wizara ya Afya Daktari Rashid Aman leo amedokeza kuwa lengo la Wizara ya Afya ni kuhakikisha mwito wao wa kukabili janga la corona nchini haujadhoofika hata kidogo, na iwapo wahudumu wa afya wataendeleza mgomo wao, huduma hizo zitadhoofika zaidi. Haya yanajiri baada ya nchi kunakili visa 193 vipya vya virusi vya corona.
Katibu mratibu katika Wizara ya Afya Daktari Rashid Aman leo amewashauri wahudumu wa afya kupitia muungano wao wa madaktari nchini KMA kusitisha mgomo wao ulioanza siku 4 zilizopita ili waendelee kutoa huduma za afya kwa Wakenya katika nyakati hizi za janga la corona, kwa kuwa nchi haiwezi bila wahudumu walio katika mstari wa mbele wakiwa kwenye mgomo.
Ours is to appeal to our healthcare workers to be able to continue to render these important services at this critical time, but at the same time enter into dialogue on the grievances that they may have.
Haya yanajiri hata baada ya mamlaka ya huduma za jiji NMS kuwa na siku 7 ya kutoa suluhisho kwa malalamiko ya wahudumu wa afya, yakiwemo ukosefu wa bima ya afya pamoja na vituo vya karantini vya wahudumu wa afya, wakiwemo madaktari wa kaunti ya Nairobi.
It's just basic them to give us a comprehensive medical cover, to promote the specialists who are working, to pay the locum doctors, to ease the shortage of doctors and employ more doctors, give us an isolation space, and more importantly, give us an isolation space and redesignate and promote the specialists.
Katibu mkuu wa muungano wa matabibu nchini KMPDU Thuranira Kaugiria aliongezea kuwa iwapo suluhisho itatolewa katika mkutano uliofanyika alasiri leo katika ukumbi wa jiji, basi hawatakuwa na budi ila kuendeleza mgomo wao kwa mpigo kuanzia kesho.
It's unfortunate that if that is not sorted out today, we shall be escalating the strike from tomorrow. We might possibly hit the streets. Hii ni mpaka mwisho. It's day 4 of many.
Katika taarifa ya kila siku kuhusu corona, jumla ya visa imefikia 33,557 baada ya watu 193 kuambukizwa virusi hivyo katika kipindi cha saa 24 zilizopita. Waliopona ni watu 225 na wengine 6 kuaga dunia kutokana na makali ya virusi hivyo.
Today, 193 people have tested positive, following the testing of 3,381 samples over the last 24 hours. This now brings the number of cumulative positives in the country to 32,557.
Nanok Lauren, TV47.
Na sasa tuangazie masuala ya elimu, na ni kwamba waziri wa elimu Profesa George Magoha amesema kuwa endapo makali ya virusi vya korona yatalemazwa, basi huenda taasisi za kiufundi zikafungua milango yake kabla ya mwaka 2021. Magoha ameyasema hayo alipoongoza shughuli ya ukaguzi wa chuo cha kitaifa cha kiufundi cha Kitale. Mwanahabari wetu Boniface Barasa anatuarifu.
Kulingana na waziri Magoha, endapo virusi vya korona vitadhibitiwa, watalazimika kufungua milango ya vyuo vya kiufundi kwa wanafunzi wanaolenga kufanya mitihani.
If there is measurable improvement and the behavior of the virus is reasonably stable, we may bite the bullet and allow the classes which are doing exams, for example, to come. But for TTCs, it is even more important because we intended to train the trainers, to allow the examination class to finish and go, and then train the trainers so that come May next year, we admit teachers who will be trained only on the CBC curriculum.
Awali wizara ya elimu ilikuwa imeratibu ufunguzi wa shule kuwa Septemba mosi kabla ya kijoto cha kusambaa kwa virusi hatari kushuhudiwa na kuzidisha hofu miongoni mwa Wakenya, na ndipo tarehe ya kufungua shule ikasukumwa hadi Januari mwakani, hivyo kuwalazimu wanafunzi kusalia nyumbani, huku shirika la afya duniani WHO likishinikiza mataifa ya bara Afrika kufungua shule.
The same WHO is double speaking because they have given us protocols which apply to everybody else, but they think because we are Africans it is okay, we can ignore. Is somebody trying now to use us as guinea pigs or what? I think as far as we are concerned as government, we love our children, and it is in their interest that we are going to sit down again and to reevaluate every stage as we do every week, and then go to the stakeholders and come back to you.
Katika kipindi hiki cha janga la corona, wanafunzi wakisalia nyumbani, idadi ya juu ya mimba za mapema inazidi kurekodiwa kila kuchao. Hapa Magoha ametoa changamoto kwa wazazi kuwajibika ipasavyo.
An issue of pregnancy, I think it's an issue which requires parents to start taking care. Why do you think it is going to school that will stop the pregnancy? Because the teachers are in control in school, isn't it? It is true. What about at home? Has times changed? If your daughter dresses and goes out, you don't care. And in any case, we are the ones who must provide solutions to our problem.
Magoha amesema hayo alipoongoza shughuli ya ukaguzi wa chuo cha kitaifa cha kiufundi cha Kitale. Boniface Barasa, TV47, kaunti ya Trans Nzoia.
Na sasa tukiendelea kusalia katika masuala ya elimu ni kwamba wakati serikali ilipopendekeza mfumo wa wanafunzi kuelimishwa mtaani wakati huu wa janga la korona, wengi waliona wazo hilo kama ndoto isiyoweza kutimizwa. Mwanahabari wetu Calvin Chitwa amemtembelea mzazi mmoja katika kijiji cha Namunyiri mpakani mwa kaunti ya Uasin Gishu na Kakamega, ambaye anatoa mafunzo ya kimsingi kwa wanafunzi katika shamba lake na kuleta taswira kamili kuhusu mfumo huo.
Sauti za majembe na panga, sauti ambazo hazitoi tu taswira ya mtu mwenye shughuli shambani, bali matumaini na maarifa ambayo wanafunzi hawa wanaendelea kupata licha ya shule kufungwa kwa sababu ya janga la korona. Hata ingawa lengo la serikali lilikuwa kuwapa majukumu walimu wakati huu shule zimefungwa, Agri Baraza, mkulima katika kijiji cha Namunyiri na afisa anayehudumu katika idara ya sheria mjini Eldoret, amejipa jukumu la kuwafunza wanafunzi kuhusu kilimo.
Tukiwa wadogo kulikuwa na ile mambo ya Young Farmers Club ambapo vitu mingi ingefanyika, na kwa sasa tunaelekea hiyo ikirudishwa kutakuwa na faida kubwa kwa watoto wetu hapa kwa village.
Baraza huendeleza kilimo aina tofauti kwenye shamba lake lenye ekari 4.
Niko na kuku, pia niko na sungura kwa watoto wadogo, tuko na mboga, tuko na cabbage, tuko na sukuma, tuko na samaki pia.
Serikali imeanzisha mpango wa watoto kusomea katika jamii, na katika kijiji hiki cha Namunyiri, eneo la Moi's Bridge, jinsi unavyotazama nyuma yangu, ni kwamba tayari mfumo huo unatekelezwa na wazazi katika kijiji hiki. Wazo la kusaidia wanafunzi kupata maarifa shambani mwake lilimjia kutokana na ripoti za kukithiri kwa visa vya wanafunzi kupotoka na pia visa vya kupachikwa mimba wakati huu wa janga la korona.
Hiyo program ya watu kujifunza nyumbani inawezekana kabisa. Sio ugumu wote, kila jambo kujitolea tu. Kwa mfano mimi sio mwalimu, lakini nimeweza kufunza hawa vizuri sana.
Maarifa wanayoyapata wanafunzi hawa wa shule za msingi na upili sio katika kitengo kimoja tu katika shamba hili.
Penye nimefika hapa hivi, experience niko nayo, mimi mwenyewe naweza anza mradi yangu. Manake tumetoa chini mpaka sasa hivi nimefika.
Nimefundishwa kulisha sungura kama vile ula chakula matawi ya sukuma. Nimejifunza kulisha ng'ombe, kulisha makuku na kupanda mboga.
Kuna wadudu wanasumbua sana mboga zetu. Kuna hii dudu ya roundworm.
Ili kuzuia msongamano, wanafunzi huja kwa wakati tofauti. Wao hujifunza pia kutafuta soko kwa bidhaa kwenye kijiji chao. Calvin Chitwa, TV47, kaunti ya Uasin Gishu.
Na mtazamaji, taarifa hizi unazipata live kupitia ukurasa wetu wa Facebook TV47 Kenya. Ingia kwenye Twitter @TV47KE, na vile ni muhimu sana kutuma ujumbe wako kwa nambari ambayo iko kwenye runinga yako ambayo ni 22047. Tuambie unaitwa nani na vile unatazama TV47 kutoka wapi. Hivyo basi tutazidi kusoma kadri tunavyozidi kusonga mbele. Tukifululiza hadi taarifa za ugavi wa fedha za kaunti, ni kwamba mvutano unaoendelea baina ya kamati ya maseneta 12 iliyobuniwa kutafuta mwafaka katika utata wa mfumo wa ugavi wa fedha za kaunti, kamati ingali kuafikiana kwa kile kinachodaiwa kuwa maseneta kutoka kaunti ambazo zinapata fedha kutokana na mfumo wa tatu kutokubali kupoteza.
Kamati ya maseneta 12 na ambayo imekuwa ikikutana kutafuta mwafaka kuhusu mfumo unaostahili kutumika kugawa shilingi bilioni 316.5 za kaunti bado haijafikiana. Maseneta kutoka kaunti ambazo zingefaidi kutokana na mfumo wa tatu wakishikilia msimamo wa kutopoteza hata shilingi. Kamati hiyo imekutana na tume ya ugavi wa mapato nchini CRA na Wizara ya Fedha na kuwasilisha pendekezo la kuongeza kuongezewa shilingi bilioni 9 zaidi kuhakikisha kuwa kaunti ambazo zinapoteza kutokana na mfumo wa tatu zinasaidika, pendekezo ambalo Wizara ya Fedha haijaweka msimamo wake. Matamshi ya Rais Uhuru Kenyatta kuhusiana na swala hilo yakionekana kulimaza pakubwa mazungumzo katika kamati hiyo.
Hii formula ilitolewa na wale watu wa SRC, si imeenda Senate kusema watu wagawe pesa kwa njia ya haki, kila mtu apate haki. Kwa nini mwananchi wa Nairobi ati kwa sababu inasemekana ati Nairobi ni mji tajiri, wewe ambao unaishi Embakasi na Korogosho bado unafunga choo kwa karatasi, lakini unaambiwa wewe ni tajiri, huna haki ya kupata pesa? Ukweli na haki utajitokeza.
Kulingana na taarifa, maseneta walikosa kuafikiana Jumatatu asubuhi, jambo ambalo lililazimisha mkao huo kuahirishwa kwa muda. Kiranja wa wengi Irungu Kang'ata akipendekeza kamati hiyo maalum kuwa na mkao na uongozi wa seneti ili kuona iwapo watapata mwafaka.
Vote no.
Kwa upande wake, spika wa bunge hilo Kenneth Lusaka amesema kuwa hawatakuwa na mkao wowote hadi pale watakuwa na ripoti kamili. Bunge la Senate limefanya vikao mara 9 pasi maafikiano, swala ambalo limeonekana kulimaza shughuli za kaunti kwa ukosefu wa fedha. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47 Nairobi.
Shukran sana mwanahabari wetu Elizabeth Mutuku kwa udadavuzi wa masuala ya ugavi wa fedha za kaunti. Mtazamaji, taarifa hiyo inatupeleka mapumziko, lakini kabla tufanye hivyo, naangalia hapa kwenye 22047 anasema TV47, mimi ni Simon Olesoyantet kutoka Narok. Please tuache kuchimbana mashimo mrefu, tusitumbukie kwa wenyewe. Anasema God bless Kenya. Sijui anaashiria nini. Mwingine hapa anasema kwamba Ivan Sinyanjongi Obuya kutoka Kisii, Bobasi Bogichonjo, naona Mutai Kawe aseme corona iko maana hakuna. Asante. Nikiangalia kwenye Facebook haraka upesi, anasema naitwa Lil Kim Vic Kimathi watching from Unimis area jijini Juba. Mwingine hapa anasema naitwa Munyiri Waya, pole kwa wenye wamehusika katika ajali hiyo. Mwingine hapa anasema naitwa Fundi Michael Jared, anasema kwamba kazi safi TV47, pole kwa waliopoteza maisha, ajali mbaya sana hiyo, na wagonjwa wapate uponyaji wa haraka. Niko Naivasha. Asante sana. Wa mwisho hapa anasema watching live hapa Karen, anaitwa Geoffrey Kosgei. Lakini sasa tunachukua yale mapumziko ya kwanza kabisa, tukirudi tutakuwa tunarudi na taarifa zaidi. Na sasa mpenzi mtazamaji, karibu tena nizidi kukupasha taarifa tendeti na sahihi. Iwapo ndo mwanzo unajiunga nasi, ni taarifa za upeo wa TV47. Tukisonga mbele ni kwamba kinara wa ODM Raila Odinga ameitaka serikali kufanya uchunguzi wa kina kubaini waliohusika katika wizi wa pesa katika shirika la KEMSA.
Katika hatua iliyoonekana kama kujibu shutuma zilizoelekezewa chama cha ODM kufuatia matamshi ya katibu mkuu wa chama hicho Edwin Sifuna, ambaye alionekana kutetea wizi wa fedha katika shirika la KEMSA.
Disheartening to hear no less than a senior government official, no less a senior government official than the deputy president go public with improper statement that at least now nobody will blame me for stealing COVID-19 funds. This statement suggests that it is okay for the funds to be stolen for as long as he is not to blame.
Kinara wa ODM Raila Odinga amejitokeza na kuweka msimamo wake dhabiti katika sakata hiyo. Kupitia barua kwa vyombo vya habari, Raila anasema ODM inataka serikali kufanya uchunguzi wa kina kubaini fedha zilizotengewa vita dhidi ya corona zilivyotumika. Aidha, Raila anasema kelele za siasa hazitasaidia, ila uchunguzi ukifanyika basi ukweli utajulikana. Isitoshe, Raila amesema chama cha ODM akitamtetea yeyote anayetuhumiwa kuhusika katika ufujaji wa fedha za COVID-19, awe jamaa au rafiki. Haya ya kijiri, kundi la vijana JCCK linaloendeleza kampeni haki kwa watoto limekashifu ubadhirifu wa fedha za kupambana na corona katika shirika la KEMSA, likiitaka serikali kufanya uchunguzi wa haraka ili kubaini waliohusika na kuwachukulia hatua za kisheria.
It is very sad indeed to know that there are people who are becoming rich amidst a pandemic that is making young people poor, that is making young people resort to crime, that is making young girls give up their virginity for pads, that is making mothers send out their daughters to become sexual workers. It is indeed sad that we can sit and watch as the government does things like this.
Kundi hilo aidha limeitaka kamati ya seneti inayoshughulikia COVID-19 kuchukua hatua za kuhakikisha wanabaini zilivyotumika fedha hizo.
We want to say that as young people we have a lot that need to be taken care of. Yet this is the news we hear of on televisions. What kind of leadership did we elect? What kind of leaders are we showing our children?
Sakata ya ufujaji fedha katika shirika la KEMSA ikiendelea kuzua mjadala nchini. Swali ni je, waliohusika watachukuliwa hatua ama wimbo utasalia kuwa ni ule ule wa kufanywa kwa uchunguzi kisha unaishia kwa wao kutochukuliwa hatua? Eli Logova, TV47.
Na sasa mpenzi mtazamaji, tuangazie taarifa ya wakimbizi, na ni kwamba wakimbizi wa ndani kwa ndani wa mwaka 2007 2008 kutoka maeneo ya Nyanza wameipa serikali makataa ya mwezi mmoja kuwafidia, la sivyo wafanye maandamano. Aidha, wakimbizi hao pia wameitaka serikali kuwakamata wezi wa fedha zilizotolewa kuwafidia.
Wakiongozwa naye Peter Kariuki, wakimbizi hao wa ndani kwa ndani mjini Nakuru wamelalamikia kutolipwa fidia kwa miaka 13 sasa. Wakimbizi hao 12,000 walidai kuwa fedha zilizotolewa zilifujwa na mawakala waliopewa nafasi ya kuwafidia. Wakimbizi hao kutoka Nyanza walisema kuwa hawajawahi pewa mahala pa kuishi na sasa wanataka shilingi 750 kila mmoja kutoka kwa serikali.
There are 64,000 across the country. That is from Mombasa to Nyatike, the far end of this country. All tribes. But kuna wale watu ambao wamepata pesa kidogo, ile 50,000. We are still insisting, hata wenye walipata 50,000, hakuna pesa walipewa. We want even them, that one to be revisited.
Wakimbizi hao isitoshe walilaumu bodi iliyopewa mamlaka hayo ya kuwalipa na kuhakikisha kuwa wamepokea fidia yao kwa kuwafidia wakimbizi wasiokuwa halali. Aidha, wakimbizi hao waliwataka viongozi katika serikali kufanya hima na kuhakikisha kuwa wamefidiwa na kurejeshewa makao yao.
Wengine wamefaidika na wamelipwa, na sisi watu wa Nyanza bado. Kwa hivyo naomba serikali kwa jumla, nashtuka sana, Odinga ni mtoto wetu wa nyumbani. Sisikia akiongea habari ya waathiriwa kutoka Nyanza.
Wakimbizi hao sasa wameipa serikali makataa ya mwezi mmoja kuhakikisha kuwa wamepokea fidia yao, la sivyo wafanye maandamano. Wakimbizi 64,000 waliathirika wakati wa ghasia za baada ya uchaguzi wa mwaka wa 2007 na 2008. Immaculate Ouma, TV47.
Na shukran sana mwandishi wetu Immaculate Auma kwa taarifa hiyo. Mtazamaji, sasa kwa kasi lakini kwa utaratibu zaidi tunaangazia taarifa za michezo, na ni kwamba beki wa timu ya taifa Harambee Stars Joash Onyango amevunja ukimya kuhusiana na ufuasi wa soka katika mataifa ya Kenya na Tanzania.
My friends who are already in the business, some of my close friends whom we grew up with were already doing the car, were already selling cars. So they kind of gave me that interest because I could see them in very fancy cars, and I really liked the business. And I've always had that business side of me since I was a small boy.
I already reserved the vehicle for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I need what's it called?
The chassis number.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me send it right now.
Okay, do that right now.
Okay.
It's very difficult to, wake up one day and just start a company. You normally have to start from somewhere. Personally, for me, I was first employed at a car dealership in Lavington. It's called Ocean Cross Autos. They gave me a job when I was a very small boy. I was actually 18 years old. So I remember very well, it was on a Friday. I just walked in. After going to very many places, I told them I really had an interest in cars. At first, everybody thought I was crazy, the guys at the dealership. But after talking to the owner very well, I somehow got the job. So I worked at Ocean Cross for 2 years. And then I quit after working for 2 years. And then I decided to go freelance. So I did freelance for another 2 years. Then early this year is when I finally made that big break and I was able to start this company. The company is very young. So at the moment we only have 3 employees. We have a guy who takes care of our local stock. We have our own vehicles in Kenya which we sell in the local market. So we have a guy who cleans the vehicles at Diamond Plaza. We also have another chap called Anthony. He's the guy in charge of sales. And we have a nice lady called Marianne. She's our admin. She handles the office for us. Because there are many times when you're not at the office. So when you come to the office, you normally find Marianne there. She's always at hand to assist our clients. So that makes 3 employees. The first car we ever shipped was it was a BMW X1 around 2018. I sold it to a certain lady called Naomi. I can still remember the number plate. It was a KCS Pearl White BMW X1. She probably doesn't know it was the first car we ever shipped. Yeah, she just risked and somehow we delivered and we did a very good job.
Ndo watatuma eh? Sawa.
We have established a very good network in places like Singapore. Singapore is my main market. Then another place where we also have a lot of contacts is Japan. So basically the process is, if you come to us, you tell us we are looking for a specific vehicle, I will just call my contacts in Singapore and Japan. Once we meet a vehicle that meets your standards or meets your expectations, we will share the photos, we'll share all the details, a brochure, then you can come to the office. We normally do a sale agreement that normally handles the legal aspect of it. It's like a contract of sorts that says we will ship the car for you, we will guarantee that the vehicle will arrive. So yeah, and then you make the payment, we send the money to our partners in Japan or Singapore, and then the vehicle is shipped. It takes typically 45 days. So here we have the station wagon version of the popular Audi A4. The Germans call it the Avant, the Audi A4 Avant. The A4 Avant is offered with a 2-liter engine. It comes with Quattro all-wheel drive. Another cool feature about this particular unit, it has a panoramic sunroof, and there's also the option of leather seats, Bluetooth connectivity, and it's also very fast. It goes from 0 to 100 in around 6 seconds, which is quite impressive for a station wagon. So we can move on to the next vehicle in our catalog. This is the British Jaguar. We sourced this particular unit from Japan. It's a 2-liter petrol version with a popular ZF gearbox. The ZF is one of the most common gearboxes in the world right now. It's an 8-speed gearbox, and it's found on everything from BMWs to Audis, Jaguars, and even Bentleys. So personally, I think this is one of my favorite vehicles in the fleet. But unfortunately or fortunately, we've already sold it and someone has already reserved it. So the next item on our list is this very, very beautiful Mercedes C180. This is one of the most popular items on our stock list. Again, this particular unit has already been sold, but we actually got it we got this one from Singapore. It's a very unique color, and another interesting feature about it, number one, is it has a body kit. You can see the design at the bottom of the bumper. Another cool aspect are the rims. The rims are AMG inspired rims. You know, Mercedes has a high performance division which they call AMG, and at times, if you're lucky enough, you can get a normal Mercedes but with the AMG trimming. Now this C180 happens to be one of those units, which it has a normal engine. It actually has a 1500cc engine, 1590cc to be very precise, but it has the features you'd find on an AMG. For instance, the rims, the body kit, and also the seats. The seats are what we call bucket seats. They kind of hug you when you sit into them. Lastly but not least, it has a 7-speed gearbox. Mercedes called their version of the 7-speed gearbox the 7G-tronic. And there's also the option of a push-button start. We did a few customizations at the request of the client. For instance, we put bigger tires. The tires are actually slightly large to handle our roads, and we also raised the suspension a bit using springs. Yeah, then there's also the fancy lights. I don't want to call them sirens, but they are lights, the fancy lights. So this is a BMW X1. We recently did a trade-in. We actually have trade-in arrangements where you can bring your older vehicle, trade it for a newer vehicle. You just get to top up some money, and we give you a better vehicle. This has a 3000cc engine. It's an M Sport, not very common. Most X1 units are normally 2000cc. And it also comes with other extras, including Alcantara seats, M Sport rims, M Sport is more or less like the AMG line version which we mentioned earlier. The real M Sport is actually a high performance division within BMW. They make very high powered cars, but as an option, BMW normally gives its clients the option of having, you can get a normal vehicle with M Sport extras. This vehicle has some of those M Sport extras, including the custom paint on the grille too. Yeah, it looks a bit scary, kidogo, so to say. But it's not a real M Sport. I don't want people to go to the comments section and start throwing stones at me. Yeah, so the interior is pretty interesting. Black Alcantara. Again, you also get the bucket seats, the ones that hug you. There's also the option of iDrive. iDrive is a infotainment suite. It has the option of you get all your options in one location. You have the radio, the DVD player, the navigation, the vehicle settings. Basically, the vehicle tells you everything from one screen. Well, the biggest challenge, personally for me, and I don't want to make the government look bad, I will say it's taxes. The taxes are really bad. I mean, the taxes on used cars in Kenya are really bad. Because we are talking of, first of all, we never get consulted, which is a big challenge for many of us. Because, for example, right now, the tax on a specific car could be 500,000. Then the next year, the government wakes up one day and changes the tax to 800. So that to us has been a very major challenge because it makes us lose business. Because you see, a client can identify a very nice car, but when mkienda kufanya the calculation for the taxes, apart the tax is very high, the client is not going to buy the vehicle. So in most cases, the client will end up buying a vehicle locally, mostly a used vehicle locally, an older car, instead of importing. And you see, at times, there's normally an advantage with importing because some of these cars we buy from Japan or Singapore are actually very modern. Some even have what people call Euro 5 technology, Euro 6. So we feel very bad when we lose business because the taxes are very high. Another challenge we experience is I think there's a problem with how the government supports young people in business. You find like some of the policies they make are not in sync with what young people like me want. You'll find that maybe some people will sit in a cabinet office somewhere, make some policies, but those policies zikikuja kwa ground, they don't really help us. So those are some of the challenges we experience. Personally, for me, my greatest inspiration is God. I'm a very religious person. I wouldn't say like I'm extremely religious, but I'm a very spiritual person. And the fact that I know that God is on my side and we are doing a good job. We're not stealing anyone's money. We're not doing any illegal business. That knowledge of knowing that I'm doing the right thing in the eyes of God, I'm ensuring that people get the right cars, it really keeps me going. Because there are so many challenges in this business. At times you'll have a lot of pressure from clients. At times there's a lot of pressure on the other side, payments, there's a lot of pressure with the shipping. But when you know that God is on your side and God is working for your best interest, it really keeps you moving. Another motivation I have is basically my son. I have a boy who's 3 years old. He really likes cars. So every time I look at him, I'm always telling myself I need to really work hard so that when I'm gone, at least he will continue with the legacy. Lastly but not least, the fear of going broke. For starters, I don't really come from a very rich background. A lot of people think I come from a rich background, but I don't come from a rich background. So I grew up in Kawangware for that was like 18 years. So growing up, I saw a lot of poverty. You see, and it really made an impression on me. So when I finished my Form 4, I always told myself I really need to work hard so that I can live the best life. After you see your parents suffer trying to look for money, it really hurts you. So you really wouldn't want the same thing on your own children or on your own family. So every time I wake up and I remember what I went through, it really puts me, it really keeps me going. I will tell these young entrepreneurs, everything takes time. You cannot wake up one day and make it. You will struggle. The struggle is real out here. Personally for me, tumekuwa na challenges nyingi when you are doing freelance. You start as a broker, people don't pay you your commissions, people don't take you seriously, people talk trash about you. But the difference between us and those people who gave up along the way is mostly that we always kept it going. So I can tell them to persevere because it really takes time. Some of them want to come into the industry today, na maybe after 2 months umefungua your own company, but it doesn't work like that. You need to work hard. And another thing I'd also encourage young entrepreneurs is to take advantage of the internet. Because right now we have things like Instagram, we have YouTube, we have Facebook. This is the future. The whole world is going digital. So I will tell them waweke effort kwa online kwa sababu sasa unajua like our parents walikuwa watu wa kuona vitu kwa TV, kwa magazeti, but now hii generation yetu we buy everything online. So we need to put more effort in doing more business online. As I've mentioned earlier, I tell them to put God first. In everything you do, you need to be honest. You see, when I say put God first, it doesn't mean that you're just going to pray and that's it. First of all, you need to work hard. You need to be a honest person. You need to do what? just try and be a good human, you know. Usifanye vitu illegal, you know. Don't try to undercut other people. Just be a good human. Just try and live a good life. So my day typically begins at 9 a.m. or 8:30 in some days, on some days when I get to the office. So first thing I normally do, I'll come, open my diary, and then I'll try and check which clients we were attending to during the previous day. Because in most cases, when you're doing custom importation, you have to do a lot of follow-ups. Because we typically get a lot of inquiries, so you have to go through each inquiry. See if you can assist the client. If it's a quote, you give out the quote. If someone wants to come and view the vehicle, you also have to schedule with the client, ensure that the vehicle is ready for a test drive, ensure it has insurance, there's enough fuel on the vehicle. Another thing we also do, we also have to go through all our social media platforms. I have to check the Facebook, see whether the sales team is attending to the clients. So I need to check the Instagram, make sure that at least we have a response rate of on the lower side at least 90%. So typically the day, it's very hard to predict how a day can go as a car dealer, because you see our work entails doing a lot of things. There are times I'll come here, I'll attend to very many clients. On other days we won't really have many clients walking in, but you'll find on such days I'll get a lot of calls. Again, there are those days when we actually go to the field. Maybe we want to go test vehicles as a team. We go out, drive the cars, maybe try to find out if there's any problem with any of the vehicles. At times we'll also go for a photo shoot. We'll also go and meet clients in the field, because there are some clients, maybe due to the nature of their work, they're not able to come to the office directly. So in such instances, you have to go out of your way as the seller. So we normally make such arrangements. We take vehicles to the clients. And again, I also really enjoy driving the cars, because it gives me, I really like to know how a certain vehicle handles, so that I'm able to understand it. It's very difficult to sell a product and you haven't used it. You don't know how it operates. So if we are not in the office, mostly we're in the field. But at any given point, there's always someone in the office to attend to the clients. And we ensure that our staff are up to date. They know how to give the right quotes, and they know how to handle our clients. Oh, by day. So hapo sinaweza pick up So my day, as I've mentioned earlier, my day starts at 9, but I don't have a definite time when my day ends. There are times when I leave the office at 1 a.m, 12 a.m. At times you have to go that extra length, because you see now, due to issues with the time difference, when we are closing down in Nairobi, it's already in the wee hours of the morning in places like Japan. And you see, at times there's a vehicle you're trying to purchase in Japan on the auction, so you have to be up very early, or you have to stay up very late, so that you're able to communicate with our suppliers in Japan. Because you'll find in some cases, when it's maybe 3 a.m. 3 a.m. in the morning in Nairobi, it's roughly say 9 a.m. in Japan. So there are times when we will leave very early, we will leave very late in the office, but typically on an average day we normally leave at 6 p.m. Then you see now, again, because of the curfew and all of this corona madness, we cannot also stay too long in the office, because we also need to respect the curfew. But typically I'd say the earliest I leave the office is 6.
Even in these uncertain times, when the world is fighting COVID-19, we must remember that every single human deserves to live a long and healthy life. And at Lotto Foundation, we have done everything in our power to help our fellow Kenyans. Thanks to you, we have donated